Hello and welcome to the Feral Future Podcast. I'm Erik.
Hi there, I'm Keri Joy.
So there's a lot going on in the world right now, as there always is.
hmm
And we don't want to talk about anything specifically because there's always going to be a lot going on in the world, and there's always going to be something out there that's vying for your attention. And so we just wanted to take a chance to sort of do something a little bit different and kind of talk about feral mindset in this sort of age of attention economy and how to be discerning about what you're paying attention to and
hmm
spending your time on, and are you getting in return what you're paying for, so to speak.
I love that.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is something that's been going on for as long as time has gone on, as long as there's been any kind of power structure or government or something like that, and any type of media or news type situation. It's always been the case, and it will probably always be the case. So what we're talking about right now is about nothing in particular, not kind of naming any specific topics or people, so to speak. We may use some examples down the road, but they're not going to be anything that's in the current time frame, because hopefully this conversation will be relevant now and will have been relevant 20 years ago and will be relevant 20 years from now. So whenever you're watching, I hope it lands.
Right, so we're just talking about like the behaviors and patterns of human beings, and it really time doesn't is
Right.
not
Well,
a
not
topic
necessarily
there.
the behaviors and patterns, but how those behaviors and patterns have been used against us,
hmm
so to speak, as humanity at large, to keep us in separate camps and keep us fighting amongst each other,
hmm
so that we can essentially be controlled and managed, and
Right,
not, I don't want to say allowed, but not given the possibility to sort of like come into our own and really
sure.
become what we are probably here to do
Right,
and accomplish.
right.
So there's some ideas that I want to share about it. I've got some notes, and one of them, here's a couple of common, um, they're attributed to Mark Twain. I don't know if they're Mark Twain or not, but two quotes that really land. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled,
hmm
right? Because there's ego involved. If somebody's been fooled, then they have to be told that they've been fooled, and that's an ego thing about, well, I wouldn't have been fooled. I'm too smart for that, or I wouldn't have
Right.
fallen for that. But in fact, we all have and will, and fall for things. And to come to the understanding that that has happened to us is really an empowering thing. But it can be scary to admit that we were wrong, or that we maybe fell for something or didn't do the due diligence we should have before we started running with an idea. The other one is that he said, allegedly, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed, with the idea that the news itself is there to sort of like control and manage you, and make you think and feel a certain way. So, is it better to be uninformed than misinformed? Is it better to be ignorant than wrong?
hmm
I guess that's some of these questions that we need to think about, and
hmm
yeah, really sit with and kind of meditate on, especially in these times where there's so much vying for your attention. There's always going to be a new thing out there to scare you, to make you feel unsafe, to make you feel outraged, to make you think and feel a certain way. And ultimately, what could you be doing with that energy
hmm
that gets turned into being scared, being angry, being outraged, going online and shouting and expressing these feelings? What if you actually just took that energy and worked on yourself, built something around you that was beautiful and wonderful, that actually
hmm
helped somebody in your immediate vicinity, if not even yourself? Because one of the most true statements, if you want to change the world, you need to change yourself first. It's kind of like put on your oxygen mask before you
Right.
help somebody else out. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that, and we talk about this a lot in our home, um, and I feel right now it's just we're just kind of seeing all of the inner traumas that people have, all of the stuff that they haven't dealt with, all of the abuse, whether covert or not, is basically being exemplified on the world stage.
Mhm.
So it's all these things that, and a lot of the time, the fear and the stuff that we're outraged about is not even necessarily stuff that's actually even happening. It's triggering moments within us that are unprocessed. And so one of the works, things that we talk about, and something that I'm really passionate about, is actually when discomfort arises. So let's say you do watch something on screen. And first of all, you need to be conscious of how much you are taking in. We talk a lot about it's not just what you eat, it's what you consume. And it
Mhm.
does affect your frequency and everything like that. But let's say you do, you want to be informed and you want to be feel, and that feels responsible to you. When you have a feeling come up, whether it's anger or rage or fear, to sit with those uncomfortable feelings that are arising within yourself instead of just projecting them outwards into hate. And a lot of times, if you take those few moments to just sit with these uncomfortable feelings, they actually move through in a way that is actually a lot more responsible, because you're not, I could watch something that's outrageous, involving children or whatnot, and it's so disgusting, and then I could be so angry and I could see Erik and snap at him and he walks in the room because I'm so angry. And that's kind of what's playing out right now. I
Mm-hmm.
really feel that. And yet, if I took those, I feel like it's my responsibility to sit with those uncomfortable feelings that are coming up within me and process them. That way, when I see Erik, or I'm dealing with clients, or I'm out in the field or in the world, that has already kind of had a chance to move through. And I'm more in a place of, like you said, discernment, or in a grounded, balanced state to kind
Mm-hmm.
of deal with what's coming up, and then act more responsibly. Like, what do I have to do? What is in my power? Am I really unsafe?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I just feeling this unsafeness that I felt when I was 3 years old as a child?
Right. Yeah, and also like kind of building off of that too, like when you do go out in the world and these topics come up about thing X Y Z that's going on, it's not so much about I'm so outraged. Can you believe what so and so or who is doing? It's like, wow, that really made me feel this way, and in doing so, I'm understanding more about myself. But that sort of gets hijacked with that the the cortisol and the adrenaline and the fear and the stress and the traumas that come up. And so yeah, it's really, I mean, it comes down to the question of why are we being shown
Right.
what we're being shown. um, there's bad things going on all the time everywhere, just as much as there are good things going
From
on
the
everywhere,
beginning of time.
and will continue to go on
Right.
forever, right? Like I'm of the mindset that this is a giant experience machine, and like
Right.
every single experience has to happen, and so there's no question of like good or evil, or why did good things happen to bad things happen to good people, why did good things happen to bad people. It just is, just all things will happen. That's why we're here, is for all things to be experienced. And that's a more spiritual take on it, and you can take that in a lot of different directions, but that's for a different podcast.
Right.
um, but yeah, why are we being shown what we're being shown, and who benefits for showing us these things, and what is their motive? I don't feel like it's just this is going on because if you just can take a step back and look at it from a like a third party perspective, it's a lot like pro wrestling or a soap opera, right? If you're really bought into a soap opera and the characters that are going on, and the entire point of it is to make you feel a certain way. It's to bring up these emotions, to bring up these feelings, um, and you're invested in these characters, and it's sort of like none of this is real, and that none of this is real, but yet you're invested in it anyway. But on a soap opera, at least it's not bleeding out into the world nearly
Mm-hmm.
as much. But when it's on this political stage, and again, it's a stage, they call it the political stage, the world stage, the political theater, like the words are telling you what's going on with it. And it's being used as a way to sort of like keep you in a state where you can't elevate and sort of like see through the the curtain,
Right.
like in Wizard of Oz. Like that was the entire
Mm-hmm.
reason of Wizard of Oz, and that movie's coming up on 100 years old at this point. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, and I also feel like it's about what you're saying is like it supports a disempowerment, because a lot of times these things, they lead to bad behaviors. They lead to more addictions. They lead to, retail therapy. They lead to, drugs and alcohol, and suppressing all of the stuff that is coming up
mhm,
within us. So that's just another thing that I feel like when you going back to why are they showing us these things, is the more disempowered we are, the more we're reaching for these things that are not truth, that are not in our highest and best interest, the more they have us kind of like, you know like they have control over us,
mhm,
and then we're not creating, we're not doing art, we're not making beautiful things, we're not watching moments of sunrises, we're completely disconnected from what really matters. We're just in this upheaval of discontent and anger and outside needs to fix and this whole suppression thing. Because going back to what I said earlier, like we were not taught how to feel these things when they come up. And really that is, and you started if when you the first thing you said, like that is, those are our superpowers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
talk about, we are here, you know, I believe and you believe, Feral Future, like there is a way for us to have heaven on earth. But all of these things that are happening and that we're seeing on the world stage right now is completely keeping us from that, from completely not even believing that exists. We're in hell. It's Armageddon. It's total survival time. Everyone's running around in fight or flight, and just and ready to fight or flee at any time.
Right.
That is like we are like facing that saber-toothed dragon, and we are ready and on guard. And by doing that, we're wasting so much time and energy from our natural birthright, which is here to be alive and to have relationships and to dance and make love and create babies and create art and enjoy yourself and deal with things that are not necessarily good, because you can't, it's a dichotomy and you can't have just all
Sure.
good. You have to feel the bad stuff, but you have to feel and experience the bad. And just all right now it just seems like it's this projection of complete chaos, and everyone we speak to is living, not everyone because we have a lot of feral
Mm-hmm.
people, is a lot of people are living in complete chaos, which is exactly like they are succeeding.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, what are you getting for your attention? You're paying your
Yeah,
attention, or you could pay it towards heaven on earth, or you could pay it towards hell on earth. And
yeah,
most people are paying to live in hell on earth
yeah,
just by looking at their screen and giving that their focus, as opposed to what's really going on around them in the day to day. Yeah, and we talked about you are what you consume. Your frequency is what you frequently see. Yeah, so it's as simple as just stop looking at it. Um,
yeah. I mean, I
and
say to Eric sometimes, please let me know if I need to know anything.
yeah, right. Yeah, well, and so one of the things I was kind of getting back to, I was talking about the soap opera or pro wrestling, and there's also this idea, it's a Shakespeare term of like the entire world's a stage, and all the men and women are the actors playing their parts. And there's also this concept of um, the outcome will be the most entertaining for those that aren't invested in it,
Mhm.
right? So if you are invested in something, you're along for the ride. But if you can take a step back and be like, I'm not invested, I can watch it, see what's going on in the world, and acknowledge that, okay, they're doing this, they're doing that. This is the storyline, this is the things that are happening. And not to say like, yes, it's real people are involved with this, or at least as far as we know they are. I mean, I don't personally know most of the people that are, you know, I can't think of one thing where I actually know somebody personally that was directly affected. Maybe you have, and it could affect you differently. We're not saying that things aren't happening to
No,
people.
bad. We know that bad and terrible things are happening, and there is a lot of reasons to have feelings of, in your, every feeling is valid. We're not saying we're like that,
Right,
we are in
absolutely.
alignment with, and everyone has to experience their own journey within that. But if you can take us, we're talking about taking a step back from it and seeing what's actually really also going on.
Right. Yeah, so there's some ideas, and this is on a recent post I saw that somebody else. I'm gonna direct lift from. I'm not gonna name who they are because they could theoretically be a polarizing figure. And again, we're not trying to polarize
Right.
anybody. This is just information, and we want to share it in the most neutral way, so that we're not trying to, you know, uh, inject anything into the conversation. It's because we're not particularly invested in any side, any faction, anything. We like to look at it from a third party and be like, okay, this is going on. How does it affect our ability to build what we want to build? That's our focus, because we feel that building the heaven that we want on earth is going to be far more helpful than investing in paying
Right.
our time and
Right.
attention to these other
Right. We
things,
don't
right?
want to fight what's going on. We are looking to just build something parallel to it.
Exactly, because choosing a side is investing into it.
Right.
So if you're for or against, you're in.
Right.
You're giving it your focus, and to be in either one is actually, indifference is the place to be about what's going on
Exactly.
with that.
Right.
I was talking to something about, we don't. I haven't watched Survivor in 20 years, and I could talk to somebody who is a big Survivor fan. Like, can you believe they're doing this, that, and the other? I can be like, wow, okay, interesting. I don't watch the show. It doesn't really bother
Right.
me all that much, but doesn't affect me in my daily life, so to speak. Okay, well, okay, I guess they're doing that now. So that's really the kind of way we look at the world stage. I don't look at anything different than a sitcom or a TV show. Um, yeah, and there
or
is,
a tragedy.
yeah. I mean, I'm not indifferent, or I don't
Right.
feel like the fact is I can't invest myself into that.
Sure.
If something directly happens to me, that's a different story. If it's my family, if it's my friends, it's a little bit different thing. But that's again coming into it with that fight or flight, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the I need to make a change now. Like I don't necessarily know that that's the right way to go about doing the kinds of things that need to get done to make things better.
Right. Because
You're just putting
we
fuel
want to
on the
make things
fire.
better. I mean,
Yeah,
we feel we're here to help play a role in humanity moving forward.
right. Yeah, if it's a bonfire and you're on this side or that side and you're throwing gasoline on it, you're not making the
Right.
fire go out.
Right.
You're propagating the fire. So that's
Right.
that idea of the
Right.
paying attention, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, here are some things that I wanted to share. So these are some things we're going to go over. Like there were 9 of them total, but there's like 5 that I want to hit because they're the most important. One is just the understanding of the algorithms that are being used on social media and to some degree the news networks as well. You're going to get fed the things that you like to see the most. Like you're going to see what you like based on your algorithm. It's going to continue to feed you that. But you're also going to see the most extreme opposite of what you feel. And that's going to raise that alarm. That's going to give you those triggers, the cortisol, like oh, the anger, you're going to see the polar opposites in the extreme of whatever you believe. It could be sports teams, it could be religion, it could be politics. There's no end of things that you will see the complete opposite of what you like on the social media platforms and on the news media as well, because they're using the similar ideas. And as long as you're aware of that, it's not going to trigger you as much. But if you're not aware that that's going on, you're going to get stuck in that loop and you're going to see the things that inflame you the most. And you're essentially a marionette on a string. You're a puppet at that point because your emotions and your feelings are completely being controlled by an external source. And you're allowing that to happen. Um, so I think that's one thing to be aware of is just the way the algorithms work and how to watch things. Again, take a step back, don't internalize it, just look at it and let it kind of just run off of you. And if it causes a feeling, well then okay, let that sit with you and understand like, well, this is where they're coming from. And on an extreme level, like there's going to be some truth to their perspective. And that's also a hard thing for people to understand. There are truth to both sides, and it can only work if there's truth to both sides. Um, so it's really dependent on who's looking at it and why, but it's presented in a way that is a second topic. It's called a false binary or a false dichotomy, where you're only presented 2 options, this or that. There's no middle ground. There's no, looking at the margins. There's no kind of blending of the two. It's like you got to pick a side. You're either in or you're out. You're for this or you're that. It's good or bad. No alternatives. And I just feel like there's very few things in the world that are truly binary like that, other than like numbers, even and odd. Like we can all agree it's even or odd. There's no option. But beyond that, when does red become pink? When does blue become green? It's like it's this spectrum as it kind of blends through, and it's like you can't define the point. Like for you, it might be much closer based on your eyes and the lighting around you. There's so many variables that can affect all of these decisions, but yet we let ourselves fall into this trap of this or that, this
Mm-hmm.
false binary, these false dichotomies, this illusion of choice, where this is it. It's chicken or fish. Which is it? It's like, well, do you have pasta? Do you have beef? Like,
Mm-hmm.
can I get a salad? Like, no, like it's a menu, it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. Choosing one doesn't mean you hate another. It's like I just don't feel like having a taco today. I'm,
Right.
I'm choosing lasagna, and that's fine. Um, so that's a good one. The other one I wanted to talk about is the idea of controlled opposition. This is a tough one because this system, this attention economy, I'm going to call it, requires the churn. It requires this thing to keep flowing. And so there will be opposition that will be propped up by your side, telling you the opposite to get you to feed into it so that you'll almost re-radicalize yourself or be more inflamed so that you're then pushed back into the system. So you're focusing that attention back in because this is the new target. The new target may not even be from the opposition. It could be from your side that's presented in a way to make you further locked in to your side.
Mm-hmm.
And that is absolutely true that happens. I mean, it's a propaganda tool. It's used all the time. It's again, it's like in pro wrestling. Like some guys play the bad guys. There's the good guys, and the bad guys, and he'll specifically go out and be inflammatory and do things that outrage. You're like, oh, I hate that guy. Oh, and as soon as you feel that way, then you're like bolstering the other sideness of the argument. Um, and then the last thing I want to talk about in this is, well, next to last, the idea of the Hegelian dialectic. So this is a concept that's been used in governments and in power structures for a very long time. Essentially, the movie Inception kind of talks about this. It kind of expresses this in a way, but the idea is you want a specific outcome. So what you do is you create the problem that will trigger the response that will demand the outcome that you initially wanted. And so that's a power system to sort of like, we know that if we present problem A, they're going to demand solution B, which is what we already want, and we have it sitting here ready and waiting. We've had it all along. Mm-hmm. We're just doing this loop to kind of get the people to basically demand the thing that they may otherwise not want, or might see right through it. Like, this is not a good thing. This is a bad thing. This is going to be used against us down the road. But because of the urgency and the outrage and the demand that's happening right now, it will be ushered in quickly and easily, with almost no effort to like try to convince people otherwise.
Right.
And then finally, just the idea of divide and conquer. The divide and conquer concept of keep people fighting amongst themselves so they can't join together and fight the larger enemy. Right. So keep them busy, distracted, not able to really move forward in any meaningful way because they're so busy fighting with each other. Yeah. So yeah. All of those things are going on simultaneously. And the more you're aware of it, and the more you can step back and sort of look at it with discernment, and without the emotional trigger, or just sit with it before you need to respond or post, or go out and scream and yell or whatever it is that you do. That fighting on Facebook has never converted anybody. Like, mm-hmm. I can't imagine. There's those images of like a guy typing and his wife's like, "Are you going to come to bed?" He's like, "No, someone on the internet is wrong." Right. It's like, they're going to be wrong. It's nothing you can do will change it. The best thing you can do is change yourself, and through example, you will be a shining light in the darkness that will draw people to you into the way that you're doing things, and that is what makes the meaningful change.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love all that. I feel like all of that is really important and it's necessary, and it's really like, we talk a lot about taking responsibility, and right now being able to see your role and where you're at without judgment, completely compassionate and with love, is your responsibility as a human being right now, to see what are you projecting, what are you judging, where are you creating chaos that isn't necessary, where do you have power, what can you control. And what Erik and I speak about a lot, is the only thing we really can control is, like, he can control him and I can control me. Like, I can control what I'm watching, what I'm paying attention to, because we talk about energy. Attention is like the number one commodity. Where you're putting your attention is where you're putting your energy. How we take care of ourselves on the daily, our self-care, how we nourish each other, what we do for work and for creativity. These are the things that we actually have power over. Like, how much aliveness do we have? Like, how much joy de vivre do we have about like moving through life? Like, these are things, and if they're not in a place that you want them to be, well, that's your responsibility to work on them and bring something different to where you're at daily, and to bring it into and then to relationships. But that is the only thing we have agency over, really. And we have choice, whether or not to put our attention on things that are not giving us energy back.
Yeah, it's true. You are in charge of your feelings. And if somebody else does things that sends you into a tailspin, you are essentially handing them control of your feelings. And that is a recipe for disaster. You will never get what you want. You will never accomplish anything of significance if you're constantly basically handing a basket of your feelings to somebody and say, please don't, please don't mess with these. They're going to mess with them. And especially if they're actively doing it. And it's up to you to consent to that and to be like, and I kind of think of it this way as well, like having an outward energy versus an inward energy, or an expansive versus contractive. you can almost think of it like having a bubble around you, right? And if you push the bubble further and further out, you have an expansive energy. You're basically putting your will, your energy, and your benefit out into the world in a positive way. Um, Similar to like if you had a trampoline with a bunch of tennis balls on it, and you pushed up from the center of the trampoline, all the tennis balls would sort of roll away, and you would sort of create this clean area around that center point where like this is my energy that I'm pushing out, as opposed to if you put bowling ball in the middle of that trampoline, all those tennis balls are going to roll inward. And so if you're in a place of not pushing your emotions out and receiving all of the outside, all of those tennis balls are going to come in on you, and you're basically going to be buried with this external energies that are just bombarding you.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to like, no, like I'm not taking on this energy. I'm not taking this on. I'm responsible for my feelings and emotions, and this is not going to affect me. And that stuff will just kind of fall away. And then you can move through the world with like grace and ease and flow, and
Yeah.
in a place where you're not, um, having challenges just in daily interactions, and just being angry and being frustrated and
Yeah.
mad and not knowing what's going to happen, because you're actually, that's when you're manifesting, that's when you're creating, that's when
Yeah.
you're establishing the world that you want.
Yeah. I love that. And I just want to share one more thing. I'm sure I know we're like wrapping up, but I've been following, as you know, the astrology of the time. And the more we can, like everything you said, babe, was very much like central channel. We have the central channel, and we are responsible for maintaining it and making sure that we're bringing in, the things that we love, we want to fill it up, and the things that we feel that we want to process it and deal with it on our own, and doesn't even need to have a story connected to it, but it is our responsibility to feel these feelings and clear them. And the more we can do that now, because we're moving into like really, it's going to get more intense and it's going to get more chaotic, and the stuff that's happening is it's not going to lighten up. But what I've been following is that the more that people can really strengthen their inner channel, do the daily work on themselves, the energy work, the healing work, whatever it may be. And it doesn't have to be like long and drudging up stories from the past or anything like that. It's just being conscious and aware. The more we can do that, there is so much incredible like light on coming in. And this is also something like really deep that Eric and I go into. Like, it's not a coincidence that during this phase where there actually is a lot of light coming in, that all this stuff is kind of
Mm-hmm.
acting out even more so. So we don't need to get into all of that because Eric and I go so deep. This is how he puts me to bed at night. We kind of go through all the wildness of all this. But the what I the what I really want to share is that if you can concentrate on yourself, there is so much beauty and like light and supportive energy and harmony that's actually like really coming through. I mean, there is a reason why they're talking about like there's a new world, there's a new earth being built right now. And if we can concentrate on that and put your attention on yourself, your family, your creativity, your art, your love, taking care of yourself, eating well, nurturing those around you, supporting yourselves. Like, that's the best medicine that we can all be doing. That's the collective juice that we need to be feeding
Mm-hmm.
into and supporting each other with. So it is really the time. So yeah, that's why we're here.
Right. Yeah, and more true than ever is the saying that we close out like with, your saying things are going to get more chaotic.
Yeah.
That is the system. That is domestication. There's no future there. The future is feral.
Yes.
So
Yes, the future is
the
very
future is feral.
feral.
All right. Thanks a lot.